Welcome to the Switch Hustle with Mags Boland Murphy and Boffin Consultancies. It's a windy one today, ladies and gents. We are going to chew the fat with another fantastic entrepreneur and business owner. I'd like to welcome Shana Chu, CEO and founder of STYLwrap, which is a really innovative solution. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about her progress with this. I'd like you all to relax and listen in. And for those on replay as well, welcome as well. So Shana, just to, first of all, thank you for coming today and for giving us your time. I know you're a busy woman. Let's find out a little bit about your own background and what brought you to the entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, so firstly, thank you for having me. So my entrepreneur journey is very disjointed. I don't have the typical entrepreneur journey that everyone always hear. You hear they did a business degree, they did a startup weekend, and now they have, a unicorn business. That's not my journey. So I guess I'll start with when I was 7 years old, and my granddad had a business, and I used to go in, and he used to have like these dockets and forms, and I'd steal them, and I'd steal stamps, and I'd walk around with a vintage briefcase with my forms, stamping my dockets, and I'd be writing down people's wages and everything else. And I think that's probably the first point when entrepreneurship really kind of got to me. I loved having the power as a child, ordering around the adults. You're doing this for me, and you're doing that for me, and you're my employee.
Yeah, yeah. I have a child who does that, Shana. I have a daughter who does that.
Exactly. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So that I think that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. Completely disjointed, not real, but I loved it either way. So when I was doing my Leaving Cert, the pressure that students go under for their Leaving Cert, and I just, honest to God, hadn't a clue what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and all this pressure of you have to choose now, you have to choose now, you have to choose your subjects, you need to know now what you want to do. And I was like, I haven't an iota of what I want to do for my life. So I ended up doing beauty therapy. Did beauty therapy, and I did 3 years of it. And I'd say during my second year, I swiftly realized it was not for me. It just was not for me. I just couldn't see this in my future. But I said, look, it's handy to have, the certificates to go with it. So I saw it through for the next year and a half anyway. So I started working in a company then, AOL Talk. I think half of Waterford worked there at that point. And I worked my way up before they closed, and I was helping them with their online help site. Now, this was my first kind of foray into technology. I was helping them build a help site. They sent me on like advanced JSP and Java courses, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. There was a certain freedom that being able to, write your own code gave me. Being able to like build a website and see it was just amazing. Now, at the same time that this was happening, I started doing an evening course in sewing. I wanted to, upcycle my own garments, and I love vintage. So I wanted to, do some circle skirts and vintage clothes. So I had started doing that. And when AOL closed, I decided, okay, I absolutely love clothing, and I'd always loved fashion anyway. So I was like, this is me. This is what I want to do. I loved the creativity of it. So I did a course for 2 years, and then I got a job as a garment technologist. The role was absolutely perfect for me because I got to use my technology experience. So I was helping with the website, the digital marketing, and then it also fulfilled my creativity side. So I was designing garments. I was traveling to factories all over the world, overseeing production, quality controlling it, making sure that, the clothing was made to strict EN standards. So I absolutely loved it. It really hit those two elements that I loved. But unfortunately, it wasn't hitting the entrepreneur one. So I was kind of back and forth and back and forth, and returns was a huge issue, still is, of online selling. And I was frustrated that I was finding it hard to go in anywhere and get my own size. I mean, here I was creating clothing and me as an expert wasn't able to go in and find my own size. I felt ridiculous, to be honest. I was like,
Yeah,
what's going on?
yeah.
So that was when I first decided, okay, something needs to be done, and I have all this experience, so I'm going to give this a try. So I guess that's my background and how I got into this.
Great. And we've a bit in common there, but I find that with everybody I speak to who has started their own business, that we do have there is common denominators with every business owner. And you know what? You said something there that you didn't take the usual journey. And to be honest, Shana, there isn't a usual journey, because the more business owners I meet, there's no traditional route now. Anyone can make it happen for themselves. But I had to laugh when you were talking about the dockets and going around with your own little briefcase and all that jazz. Because I have a daughter who definitely has executive characteristics, and she's quite young. But I love to hear those stories, because it puts a bit of substance to the person and it makes them real. Because at the end of the day, we are all real people. And I also love fashion. My husband will probably tell you that he curses that fact at times, because I love shoes. I love vintage as well. So I'm just, if I wasn't working in the role that I work in now, I would definitely be doing something in that sector, in that space. Shana, tell us a bit about the innovation behind STYLwrap and what it actually does for the users.
Yeah, so what STYLwrap does, so originally what STYLwrap was, it was something that akin to a virtual fitting room. And I was going out into the market, and the market was pretty steadfast in telling me that no, this wasn't it. Yeah, it might be eventually, but it's definitely not it now. And it took me a very long time to listen to that. And last year, when COVID happened, everyone was so unsure of what was going to happen. Every market was a little bit volatile, except PPE, I guess. Um, but the fashion industry, for the first lockdown, it was a little bit of a disaster. They were cancelling orders all over the place. There was billions of stock just cancelled in Bangladesh factories, and it was a little bit of a minefield, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. So I took the time to step back a little bit and to, the saying, don't be working in your business but also work on your business. So
Absolutely.
I did a little bit of that, and I started thinking about the journey and what it is I was actually trying to solve. What the product was, what was the end goal. And I started sewing and sketching again, and I was like, "Oh my God, what if I just become a fashion designer again? What if I just have my own line?" And I had some fabric, I was making a garment, and then suddenly everything came flooding back to me from working with the factories. The frustration, even though I'd be traveling to factories, sometimes there wasn't great transparency there. The frustration of the sizing, the frustration of production, the sample cycles, the tech packs. And I was like, do you know what? That's actually it. It's not anything else. That's what I need to solve. I need to solve that. Everyone kind of has this assumption that the fashion industry is, digital native, that everything is just, they're standing there in VR designing a garment. And yeah, some brands might be like that, but it's not on the production side of it. You go to any factory in the world and there's people sitting at sewing machines. It's a very analog industry. The production side of it hasn't really adopted much digital technology yet, whereas the e-commerce side, yeah, it has. So that's kind of where this idea like maneuvered to.
Mm.
So what I started doing was I sketched it out, and I sketched out what I had previously done in my previous role, creating garment tech packs and the sizing. And like sizing is a big issue in the industry because it's such a manual labor. There's so much room for error. So what the platform does, it helps the brands to ensure consistency in their tech packs, consistency in their sizing and their measurement chart. It flags any issues with sizing before it even gets to the sample stage. So you're not wasting that time. So we're seeing that brands have been able to cut down that cycle from about 6 to 7 months down to 2 to 3 weeks. So it's a huge cut down for them. The management hours alone and the frustration is such a saving. And then if there's consistent sizing being produced from the brands, that in turn actually reduces returns. If you could walk into any single shop and know that in this brand, you know, for example, okay, I'm a size 10 in this brand, and you know that no matter what the garment is, that if you pick up a size 10, it will fit you. I mean, that would in turn reduce returns. So that's pretty much what we're working on, just ensuring that sizing is consistent. But we're starting at the first point of where that starts to go awry, and that is at the sampling and production side of it.
Shana, I have to say, right, as both an entrepreneur myself and as a shopper, that solution is, it's just, it takes the pain out of purchasing online. Because one of the biggest things, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there that have always bought online or who have been positively persuaded into the online space of shopping because of COVID, will identify what I'm going to say is when I go online, and I do buy a lot of stuff online now, that you go in and you're like, oh God, I don't know if that's going to fit me now. And then I have to go to all the trouble of returning it. And to be honest, 9 out of 10 times, if something doesn't fit you, you're not really going to bother returning it. A lot of the time, it just doesn't happen in time. And it's just a pain in the ass. And I think it's also a pain in the ass and a challenge for the retailers, because at the other side of it, they have all these returned garments coming back and they still have to try and move them. And it's time wastage. It's material wastage. And sometimes if you don't get it right with the customer in the first instance, you've them lost. So to me, and when I spoke to you first, which is about 3 years ago now, only feels like yesterday, but when I spoke to you first about this, I thought to myself, this has legs and this is viable if it can start at the basics, which is what you've returned to. And tell us a little bit about the interest that you've received from, I suppose, retailers on the ground. What kind of interest is coming back from them now?
Yeah, you actually raised a really good point there on returns and the brands and what they're going to do. So I'm going to just briefly talk about that before I answer your question. So the returns are huge, and you are right that a lot of people, especially if they're shopping with someone like Boohoo, or if the price of the garment wasn't too much, generally they'll keep it and they'll say, oh, I'll just leave it in my closet. You never know, it might fit eventually, or I might be able to give it to a friend or a sister, or I'll keep it anyway. And what happens is that garment will eventually then go to charity, or go into one of the charity bags. And what happens then is, I'm not sure if you've seen the latest news. So there was 2 pieces that broke out in the past few months. The first one was the charity clothes being sent to places like Ghana. So huge amounts of unused charity clothes and used charity clothes get sent to places like Ghana. And they're so overwhelmed by the sheer amount that is getting sent there that they've nowhere to put them. So they're just piling them up into landfill spots. And the image that accompanied it was pretty shocking. Actually, the video that accompanied it, and it was a video of cattle grazing on a mound of clothes. And when you see that, it's really shocking. For us, it doesn't really affect us that much. It's just it's just a piece of clothing in the back of my wardrobe. And I do it as well. I try not to now, but there's still garments in my wardrobe that have never fit me, probably will never fit me, and I just keep them there anyway. But these garments are, it's their way of life, unfortunately. Their cattle is grazing on clothing. I mean, what nutritional value is that coming from? The second one was in Chile, and there's a Chilean desert, and there's 60,000 tons of unused clothing that is currently just thrown around in the desert over there. And they've actually made like roadways for cars to drive through it. And it's it's kind of getting to the stage now where we're actually running out of spaces for this unused clothing and the overconsumption. We kind of we need to do something about it. The first thing is tackling production. So 41% of online shoppers buy multiple sizes to fit at home because the brands, there's no consistency. So it's the brands that need to solve this. It's not people who are buying multiple items that are at fault here. So fashion retailers overproduce by 30%. That's 45 billion garments every year that are being produced just to plug a gap of people buying multiple sizes. Like 45 billion garments. It's shocking.
That's really shocking.
Yeah. So all these garments every single year are being produced for no reason at all. Like it's the cost of that for the retailers. So the sheer cost of producing those extra garments. Then when someone buys it and returns it, like they get free returns. If their basket is over a certain amount, they've gotten free delivery. So the brands are absorbing all of these costs. So by having consistent sizing, you're already cutting out 45 billion garments. You're cutting out the cost of the free returns, the cost of the delivery. So all of this, it's just a sheer amount. So I just wanted to briefly touch on.
No, I think that's a really good point to make. And particularly now, with the likes of the climate action bill that was brought in and other initiatives as well, globally and nationally, I think we have an obligation now to look at how we use materials and how we can actually reduce wastage. I'm a big believer in lean and green. I think as a generation thing as well, my daughter, who's 11, will correct you if you're not recycling. And she's right. She'll tell people that's not good for the environment. And we're more, we are embracing it, absolutely, but we need to actually, I suppose, dig a little bit deeper in our businesses and in our lives and see, well, what do we need and what don't we need, and where can we cut this? Where can we cut our cloth to fit, so to speak, pardon the pun. But thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I'm not forgetting your question.
And I am too, but I'm just trying to think now. My God, listen, we'll get back to it. We come round to it again, Shana. Shana, oh yes, I do remember the question now. What kind of expressions of interest and feedback have you received from retailers, both nationally and globally, and I suppose brands as well?
So the appetite has been absolutely huge for this. It's so much actually that I can't keep up with demand. I am currently raising my seed investment purely so I can onboard the customers in my waiting list because I can't onboard them all at the minute. I just don't have enough resources. So that's the appetite that's there. In May, when I had sketched this out and before I started building out the MVP, I had made phone calls to some brands, and on my sixth phone call, I had already filled all testing slots. I wasn't able to actually have any more testing slots. So I said, right, okay, I'm just going to have to build this now straight away. So I had said to the brands, look, I actually don't have anything built yet. You're going to have to wait a few months. And they were like, yeah, of course, no worries. And there was one brand that in particular that was saying, no, you've sold us to us now. We need this right now. Like, we need you to work with this right now. We need your help. So I did start working. So I started working with them straight away, but that is the appetite. And it's not just brands in Ireland. So I've spoken to large international brands. I was speaking to H&M at Web Summit, and they had a pure appetite for this. They agreed with me on the analog in the production side. And they were saying, yeah, we need this, actually. We need this. There is a power plant in the Swedish town of Västerås, and they stopped burning fossil fuel to be more sustainable. And the answer to being more sustainable is to actually burn H&M clothes, unsold H&M clothes. So H&M were saying, yes, we need this solution. We need, consistent sizing and reduce that frustration and bring down that sample cycle. So the appetite has been overwhelming. And I guess that's, when you're starting a business and everyone is saying to you, the key thing that you need to get is product market fit. Once you have it, you'll know you have it. And I was always like, I think I have it. I think I have it. No, I definitely did not have it, because the reaction that I got from when I went out in May and even now is so huge that no, now I have product market fit. So I completely understand it now. So that's my struggle at the minute, trying to get in my seed funding so I can serve it to all of these brands that are desperate for it right now.
Well, I have no doubt that you will. I think myself, and I know we've done a bit of work together, and there is an awful lot of work that is involved in getting something to market. And I suppose that's the behind the scenes stuff that you and I would be aware of, but a lot of the general public wouldn't. There's testing, there's justifying, there's validating, and then there's always the paper pain as well that has to be done, a necessary evil, as I call it. And it takes a lot, Shana, to stay focused and committed to that process. What have you found to be the biggest challenge, some of the biggest challenges, and let's face it, the pain, the headaches and the frustrations of getting the idea from the idea generation stage to where it is now and beyond?
So my biggest frustration was, yeah, I had experience in tech, but the type of tech that this is way above my experience, way, way, way above. We're talking like a different universe. So there is elements of AI, and especially as we build it up and out, there'll be more AI in it. So
Mm.
I didn't know where to start with this or what to do, and I had been considering, do you know what? I'll do a course. I'll start learning it. No, that's not that wasn't proper use of my time. So that was a major headache for me, and I was a little bit all over the place with it. I reached out to a company that I had previously had experience with in Cork, and we've since partnered, and they're building my MVP for them, and for me, I should say, and that has just completely alleviated the headache for me. So I remember a quote that you should always be in a room with people that are smarter than you, and I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room when I'm with these people. They have just completely, there's no headache at all. They completely understood my vision and what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. It was hard to build it because there's so much complication when you're working with fabric. The weave of it, the drape of it, whether there's a stretch in the fabric, the grading on the measurement chart. There was a lot in that. So I had to work very closely with them and their developers to get even to the MVP stage. There was a lot of work in it, but it was so much fun working with them. They just took the pain out of it. Even on our daily stand-ups every single day, we'd go through what we had to work. And for me, it was, if I hadn't have found them, that would have been the biggest pain in my ass ever. So I'm just so thankful that I found them when I did, and that I've been working with them. So I guess I should give them a shout out. Fourth year, I'm down in Cork. Hi guys. They have just been absolutely wonderful and amazing, and I'm so grateful and thankful that I'm at this stage. I mean, now my biggest headache and worry is money, but sure, what entrepreneur doesn't have that headache and worry?
On headache at times, and I think as well, tech business is a little bit different to that of, especially when you're bringing something innovative, new, that is also a solution to the marketplace. It brings different challenge types to the table for the business owner, because it's not a service in the traditional sense, it's not a product in the traditional sense. It's creating and designing, and I suppose you have to test it and proof it, and that's the hard part. But I also, what you said there about the guys down in Cork, in the Rebel County, like, I do feel as well, and this is something, would you agree with this, Shana, that there are people out there that can help you solve the problems that you might have. You just have to find them and ask for the help as well and look for it. We all have our own little skill set. I can't sew. I'm embarrassed to say it. I can do the basic basic stitch, that's about it. It's something I'd love to be able to do, but then you go to somebody who can. You go to a doctor because they have that medical expertise. You go to a graphic designer because they can design. So, and I love that about it's something that somebody who's very close to me says as well, always be in a room with those who are smarter than you.
Yeah.
You can learn so much. Do you think going into 2022 that there's going to be a change now in how retailers sell and in how customers buy and purchase?
I honestly thought that there was going to be a difference. Every single webinar that I was on, every single talk, every single article that I had read, yeah, it's different. It's going to be different. It's never going to be the same again. And then we opened back up, and instantly it was exactly the same as it always was. After all the talk from the industry that no, we're going to change, we're going to change. I mean, they said that fashion shows can't be the same as they are anymore. They're going to have to change. They can't do them the same. Last September, the fashion shows were exactly the same as they always had been. And I think in one sense, it wasn't a case of just going back to the same old. It was people craved that familiarity after going through COVID and after everything. I mean, we still are going through it. And any little thing that, I hate using this word, but normal, anything that feels normal and feels like before COVID, I guess, you're going to gravitate towards it a little bit because it is a bit comforting, and humans are, creatures of comfort. Sometimes we don't like to change. So look, I don't know if it is going to change for the new year. I think there will be elements. I don't think that this is going to be an instant change. I think it's going to be a very slow process. Yes, there are brands, and yes, there are brands that are very, forward for digital and forward for sustainability. And I think by more and more brands slowly adopting it and taking it on board and changing the way it is, I think eventually it will be. It'll be hard to pinpoint exactly when, but I think maybe in a few years, if we look back, we'll say, wow, we really have changed and it is completely different. And I'm so glad that I can go into a shop and get my size now,
I think you actually said something really interesting there, because that it went back to the same old normal. I think we are definitely creatures of habit, and we want that little bit of comfort. And I suppose that interaction with people as well, it just shows how important it is. And I'm a big believer in the following, that we always have to remember, whether we're online or offline, that there's always a person at the end of it. And it's something we need to remember. I do agree with you. I think it's going to be a very gradual changing, changing of habits, I guess. I think there is still that need for the online space in terms of shopping, because now we know how handy it is, and that you can literally buy anything online. However, I feel myself it's going to stay a hybrid model in the Irish market, that there will be a growing percentage of it, because I know with retailers that we work with, clients of ours, that they have seen a huge growth in the online shopping space for their products and services, which I think is good. But also they still see the need for the offline piece and that people interaction piece. I'm delighted and glad that STYLwrap is coming into the marketplace, because it'll definitely take the pain out of shopping for the likes of me and for many others as well. It's funny, in this country, in Ireland in particular, Shana, a lot of us have been using, tech solutions and remote access systems for quite a long time. And I know myself from my own experience, we've been using them since 2013. And I remember people saying, really, how we're going to have a meeting online? And I'd say, yes, we are, because unfortunately I can't clone myself. And it's worked for us incredibly well. And we're using other systems as well, like online portals for clients and that. And it just works. It just works. And the simpler you keep it, the better. But I think what you have at the back of it, I can't even begin to imagine. You've all the different pieces that you have to take into consideration, like the material type, the clothing form, the stretch, the fit, the drape. It's, there's so much more, but yet it's going to culminate into a simple solution.
Yeah, and it's actually, honestly, it is so much fun. If
Yeah, that's
I
great. Great,
if
it
I
should be.
actually was able to talk to myself from last year and say, do you know what, just keep going. This time next year, you're going to be having fun with this. I would have been like, nah, go away out of it. But I actually am. It is so much fun. Like on the MVP that was tested, as the designer is inputting the measurements, it will instantly say whether the grade is correct or not. And it instantly takes out all of that frustration. Like before, if the designer was too close to the measurement chart, they'd send it to the factory, and the factory might pick up that there's an issue with the measurement chart, or if they're not sampling that size, it might not be picked up at all until production comes in and it's wrong. But now it's been solved straight away before you even hit save. So I like when the guys first showed it to me and I was testing it out myself, I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. It was late at night and I instantly wanted to send it to brands. I was like, check this out, because I knew how much it was going to save and help. And
Yeah.
I was literally like a child at Christmas. I was like, wait till you check this out. It was so much fun.
Can I ask you, Shana, like going forward now, where do you want this to go for yourself?
So, like originally, I just wanted to reduce returns, but now I'm like, do you know what? Like as much as I do love shopping online and I love getting, the little surprise packages that you might have forgotten that you ordered and, getting them in the post. But I absolutely love having in-store experiences as well. And what I don't like about in-store experiences now is obviously going into the fitting room and trying on things. And COVID has just made me an absolute like bacteria phobe and virus phobe. I don't like touching things. But as a creative designer, I mean, no matter what clothing shop I was in, I used to have to like pick up garments, look under them, look at the seams, feel the fabric. And I can't do that now. And I don't like going into fitting rooms. But I still love the in-store experience, the little touches that you can give to shoppers in store. I absolutely love. And I do agree that I think it will be hybrid. So what I want from this is consistent sizing no matter where you shop. That you can go into a store and you can pick it up. Like if you're on your lunch break and you want to go in and you want to buy a jacket that you've seen or a nice dress or even a shirt, you go in and you can pick it off the rack and you just know that you don't need to waste time going in and fitting it on because you know it's going to fit you. And the same online. I just want consistent sizing and I want to have a genuine effect on sustainability. There has been a lot of technology that just, they have made some kind of move towards sustainability, but I want this to have a very marked, genuine sustainability where we can say, yeah, we've actually taken billions of unused garments out of the supply chain from being made. That's our big vision and goal, is to make it easier for shoppers, take out that frustration, make everything consistent and make that supply chain transparent for probably the first time, just so people can actually see, how the factory is working. That's just key for me. Transparency, consistency, and zero frustration.
I have to say, Shana, right? That's a really, really good point, and it's an interesting one. Consistent sizing, no matter whether it's offline or online. I love that because I hate changing rooms. I hate them. And particularly, like I'm going to pick one garment type that I love, and I would live in if I was allowed to, and that is jeans, denim, right? I don't know how many pairs of jeans, but I have to mentally prepare myself when I go shopping for a pair of jeans because I don't know whether it's going to suit me or not, even if
Yeah.
it is in my size, right? So I do think that there does need to be consistent sizing. I think as well that it would increase sales and revenue generation for retailers. I genuinely do, because the customer would know and have a guarantee that okay, this is done right. I know if I pick up a size 10, a size 12, whatever you are, that it's going to fit me, right? In a specific brand. And there's no, I have to go back and I have to go into the fitting room and I have to get out of the fitting room. And if you're on your lunch break, you're caught for time and all that jazz. So I do think that's a really, really good point. And if there's any retailers out there to kind of think about that, because every store is different. But imagine the revenue that, and the customers as well, that the retailers could impact on if they did those two things. And some of them actually, a lot of them are already taking steps in that direction, that they are giving consistency and that they're taking that CSR step, corporate social responsibility, to be sustainable. I think we have a duty of care now to our customers and to the world, to kind of look after the planet a little bit, and reduce wastage. But what that does is it in turn allows the customer to be happy, so your customer is going to return. It allows you to have better revenue in your business. So consistent sizing could lead to consistent revenue and cash flow. So that's a point that I'm glad you made, and it's a good one, a really good one actually. What else would you like to do with STYLwrap going forward?
So there is a like a pretty packed roadmap for where we're planning on going for the future. This production platform is the first step. There's a few different things that I have vision for on the production and the supply chain, and there is as well an e-commerce solution, just to ensure that I'm looking at both sides to ensure consistent sizing and returns. So there is a solution for that down the road as well. I guess our big vision, like I said, is just ensuring that clothing is being produced. Do you know, I'll give you an anecdote, okay? You were speaking about jeans. Jeans are one of the most complicated garments to actually get to fit you. I mean, I do exactly the same. If I'm ever going in to get a pair of jeans, I have to prepare myself, because 10 pairs down and I'm still like, what the hell?
I'm not the only lunatic, but my husband laughs at me because I feel like I'm going to do a workout when I go to shop for jeans.
Yeah, it's really hard. Honest to God. And the thing is that, so Levi's, for example, okay, they produce in 4 different factories for one style of jeans, okay? So someone had gone into a store and bought a pair of jeans and it fit them perfectly. And they said, okay, since these jeans fit me perfectly and I know how complicated these jeans are, I'm just going to go in and buy like 4 pairs of these in my size so that I have them for when these ones wear out. And at least I know that they're there. So they went in and they bought 3 or 4 other pairs, and they actually put a post up on social media, and every single pair, even though they were marked the same size, were completely different to the first one that they bought. Same style, same size, completely different. The fabric was different on one of them. The consistency of it, you could kind of see that it was different. Now this is where it gets hard, because when you're sourcing your fabric from a mill, it might be from a different dye bath, so the fabric could actually have different consistencies. So that's not uncommon. But for the sizes, it was completely different. And it turned out that because they were using different factories, and because the garment technologist had one of the garment technologists on the team had slightly changed the measurement chart and sent it to a factory, and they hadn't spoken to another colleague, and this whole thing just caused absolute chaos in just one garment. Absolute chaos. So I guess when I'm talking about transparency and consistency, it's not just the sizing, it's actually within the team as well. So to ensure that the team is consistent, that the team are actually, in the know. If everything is centralized on a platform, everyone is working to the same goal, the same idea, and the same sizing guidelines. So that's our big vision, to get everyone working to the same sizing goal.
It's 13 hours.
Well, that would be fantastic, Shana, because I think it would. I think a lot of women, in particular women, but men as well, would breathe a sigh of relief if you could do that. Because we do love shopping, but it's a pain to have to return stuff if they don't fit right. And Shana, on a completely different note, tell us something that no one knows about Shana Chu.
Oh God, something that no one knows. I'm a pretty good baker.
All right, I love it.
Yeah. So even the most complicated of dishes, whether it's like a chocolate souffle or fondant, or whether it's meringue, I absolutely love to bake. And yeah, I'm actually not that bad. I've never had one complaint from anyone. In fact, people normally say, "Where did you buy these?" I'm like, "No, I made them."
Well, Shana, definitely, I think, ladies and gents, like, we have someone here where we can order our desserts and pastries from. That's brilliant. That's quite a wicked. That's a creative thing as well. That's another
Yeah.
creative element.
Yeah,
Um,
do you know what it is? It's using my hands, like, even when I'm, like, sewing up a garment or anything like that.
yeah,
Like, again, it's using your hands. I love creativity, especially when it comes to that. So measuring out, like with baking, with cooking, I hate cooking actually. I absolutely cannot stand cooking, because you'll read a recipe and it's like, throw in a bit of this or throw in a bit of that, and you literally can just throw in anything and it will always turn out okay. If you throw in a bit of anything in baking, it's a disaster. You have to be exact and precise, and it's the
yeah,
same when you're sewing clothes. You have to be precise. If you're not precise with cutting out a fabric, the seams aren't going to align and it's never going to fit you. So I think I'm a precision freak. Maybe that's it.
you know what? They're kind of relative then. You know, the bacon and style wrap are kind of relative. And my oldest friend she's a qualified chef, and she's left the industry there a couple of years ago, but she's very creative. And I think that's something I see in a lot of people that are in that space, that they're really creative creatures. Um, I suppose one of the things, Shana, that I talk about a lot with people that come on the podcast is that work-life balance piece. And it's not, I suppose there's no real, as I say, what is work-life balance? It's hard to know, because when you're an entrepreneur, most of us love what we do and we get a kick out of it. We work hard, but it doesn't feel like work in some senses when we are doing it. I suppose it's the frustrations around it that make it hard. What do you do to kind of get that little bit of balance for yourself right now, especially because you're at a development stage, you know, where you need that little bit of balance?
So this was something that I was not good at all. I was so bad at this when I first started out. Everything I I got into this mentality of, you need to hustle. You need to hustle. You need to be at this like 24 hours a day. You need to be on it. If you're not working on this at 11:30 at night and back up at 3 a.m., then you're nothing. And I had this mentality that, life came second, that I just needed to work and do this and get it, across the line. And it completely wore me down. Like, I was absolutely wore out. They say that you can get founder fatigue, and I'm pretty sure that I had that just as lockdown was starting. I was mentally and physically just completely wore out. If lockdown had not have happened, I don't know if the company would be here, because I needed that space and that breathing space to rethink, where we were going to go, what we were going to do. And it was just the best thing ever to have that break. And it made me realize that everything that I had been told or taught, that I needed to, reevaluate as well, that it's not about the 24-hour hustle. It's not about that at all. It's
Yeah.
about enjoying the journey. And I was not enjoying the journey. I hated the journey, like absolutely hated it. Um, I know as entrepreneurs you can have up and down days, but if you're generally not liking it and you're forcing yourself to do things, then you need to have a long hard look at what you're doing and trying to change it. So now I'm enjoying it a lot more, but I'm not doing that 24-hour hustle. Yeah, there'll be times when I'm sending an email at 10 o'clock at night, but it's just one email. I do have a cutoff point. I have time for friends and a social life and, my partner. And I'm enjoying it an awful lot more. And I'm enjoying the journey of it. Like, I absolutely love it. I love doing things like this, like being on podcasts. I won the All Ireland Seed Corn final 2 weeks ago, and I absolutely
Well done.
Thank you. I loved it. Like, having an in-person event, going up on stage to collect a trophy. I was in my element. I loved everything. Like, before I would have been so stressed and nervous and everything else, but now I'm just a lot more laid back and enjoying it and actually being in the moment. Before, I would have been worried about so many things, but that night I was actually able to switch off and just enjoy the process of it. So I think it's a very hard thing to do, to be honest. It's very hard to find that right balance. And I think you need to be more mindful of it to actually achieve it. I mean, if you're kind of caught up with forcing yourself and telling yourself you have to do this and you have to do that, you don't have to. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. If you need to take time off on lunch and go for a walk around the block, then you should do that. I mean, just go for it and do it. If you get way more done in your afternoon, if you take an extra, half an hour to go do that, then do it. So I'm not absolutely perfect at time management, but I'm a lot better than what I was. And it's purely because I've taken the pressure off that hustle mentality.
Yeah, I think, you know what, Shana, I think definitely the pandemic has shown us that we all need a bit of that in our life. I know, like you, God, I'd say 7 or 8 years ago, I would have, just done the hustle 24/7. And I don't think that's good for any of us. I think, that we need to breathe as well. And it's funny how when the world stops together, which happened with the pandemic, we all get an opportunity to look at our life. And, we're not, we put a lot of unnecessary pressure on ourselves at times. And others do as well. And it's something I think you have to own that piece. I remember one instance that really sticks out in my head in my life. We were in Sweden for a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget this. Now I was still running the business between Ireland and Sweden, and a couple of times I travelled back for meetings in Dublin with clients. And I remember that the first occasion that I flew back. Now in Sweden, they're not perfect either. None of us are, to be fair, right? We all have our little quirks and ways of going, if you're striving for perfection, it ain't going to happen because real life will interrupt that big time. But I remember being in Sweden and they just have this calmness and they really have a sense of working to live as opposed to living to work. And it was something I really embraced when I was over there. And I remember flying into Dublin Airport, walking through arrivals, ringing my husband and saying to him, oh my God, I can feel the tension already in the air.
Yeah.
And it was so tangible, Shana. I could really feel that craziness and pressure was kicking in the minute I went into arrivals. And there was that calmness when you went back over to Stockholm. They work bloody hard, but they have a real sense of the balance. And I think we are getting to that stage now in Ireland as well. It's an ongoing process. There's no one perfect. But it really, that particular moment and that experience, it was only a split second thing. I have strong intuition, so I can feel energy really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is not what life is about. You can work and live and build a really strong business and a really successful business, but you don't have to do it at the detriment of yourself and your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And what you're saying is completely correct, that we do try to be perfect. but we're not. And I suffered from that last year. I had this idea in my head of what an entrepreneur or a founder should be. And I was trying to force myself into that cookie cutter entrepreneur. And it was never going to happen because that's not who I am. I needed to forge my own way into it. And it's all to do with that pressure. And I think once you get rid of that pressure, there is that breathing space. And I do feel like Ireland is trying to change it. I mean, you hear of companies every week incorporating, the 4-day work week. And I think we are kind of at that point where we are changing it and turning it. I mean, people have left so many jobs over the past year because they weren't happy with where they were. I mean, I hear that there's just so many people that have left their job because they were unhappy. And I think in one way that's good, because everyone should be happy in what they're doing. If you're not happy in what you're doing, then the company is not getting the best out of their employee either. So I think it is good in that sense. But I do feel that we are changing, and I hope that it's for the best. I think it is. We'll wait and see.
We'll end on that note. Shana, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm going to make a little prediction here. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think I did this before with you as well. I predict great things for STYLwrap, because they've got a really focused lady at the helm, and I think you're going to go and do great things for retail and for sizing consistently online and offline. And I kind of think big brands are going to embrace this as well. And it's great to see it from what I love as well is this is a homegrown Irish business. And I love that. I love that. And we need more of that. And there's so much. And I'd say that to the listeners as well. There are so many really great, innovative businesses coming out of Ireland that a lot of the time we're not aware of. So Shana, thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. You're going in the right direction. And for anyone that's listening, if they want to find out more, look up STYLwrap.com. It is well worth a look. Keep an eye on Shana Chu. Follow her online. And to any of the retailers out there, you definitely need to look at this. This is a solution that will only help your business going forward. Shana, thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing the updates from the business as it grows.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. You're very welcome. You're always welcome. Ladies and gents, I'm going to leave you. Take care out there. It's wild and windy with Storm Barra hitting our shores here in Ireland. And have a great week, and stay focused and stay committed to what you're doing. Bye-bye for now.